Welcome to the Vermillion Plug, Brock. How's everything going?
It's going great, man. Can't complain. It feels good to be back.
So, I really wanted you to be on it because you're at our community group, and you're an interesting guy. You're great to talk to. You got a lot of stories. Well, the first thing is, give me some information. You're in the military, right?
Yes.
What branch are you in?
I am in the Air National Guard. So it's like a sub-branch of the Air Force.
What got you into it? Like, why'd you want to do that?
It sounds kind of cliche, but growing up as a kid, my great-grandpa got drafted in the Korean War as a Marine. He did prisoner transport. I don't think he necessarily liked the service, but when you get out, a piece of you is always with it. So you always appreciate it. You always talk about it. He'd always tell me, like, oh, it takes a man to be a Marine, and stuff like that. And then I had my uncle, my mom's brother. He is actually in the Air National Guard as well. We actually have the same job. Also, I really couldn't tell you. I just knew from when I was little, I always wanted to be in the military. I always talked about it, like whether it was at a Husker football game and they do a flyover, or like just playing Call of Duty with my uncle or whatever. I told everyone all the time, like, yep, I'll join the military one day. And what I wanted to be always changed. But, as you grow older, opportunity presents itself and you end up just following on something you never even would have thought of. And so I refuel aircraft now is my job.
Sweet. So for me, all the stuff with the military is new. Back home, I don't think I've had family members in the military. Maybe I had like one of my dad's cousins, but I don't know nothing about it until I came here and I started meeting people that are veterans or that are in the military. And I had a bad perspective because I thought, oh, if you're in the military, I play Call of Duty. I guess you just go in there and it's similar.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah. But it's not. It's not. But what are those differences? Because, and I apologize if I'm ignorant. There's, like you were saying, the Guard, there's the Air Force, there's Army, Marines, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What are those differences?
Yeah. So we'll start Air Force alone and we'll branch out. So if you are active duty Air Force, you can be put under any global base that we have, under any MAGCOM. What a MAGCOM is, it's a larger subsection of the Air Force that has a specific mission. So, for example, like the AMC, Air Mobility Command, is a MAGCOM. PACAF, so the Pacific side, like the Pacific Ocean, that's a whole MAGCOM in itself. So when you're active duty, you get sent to a MAGCOM and you follow their mission and then once you get to your base, whether they have bombers, fighters, whatever, right? They have their own mission under that MAGCOM. You know what I'm saying? So whether it's like bombing in the Pacific or moving cargo, you know what I mean? Then if you're like me, or you're a guardsman, we have two MAGCOMs. So mine is, I'm under the Air National Guard is its own. And then the AMC as well, the Air Mobility Command. So my mission is sometimes we deploy, but our main focus is stateside. So stateside training, stateside. So the Guard is the first response to an emergency happening within the United States. So even if something like a flood or like the tornadoes that went through Lincoln and Omaha, I 100% guarantee you the Army National Guard is there giving relief or helping in some sort of way. That's mainly our jobs. As far as like Air Force to Navy to Marines to Army, Marines are usually the tip of the spear. So whenever there's like a real just fist fight out on the battlefield, Marines are usually the first one there, accompanied by some sort of special operations, just depending whatever the mission needs. The Army is usually the guys that kind of back them up, and then if they take over a town, They kind of just hold that town, like really make sure it's U.S. control. The Navy obviously rules the sea. They make sure no one comes to our country, and vice versa. They do. Our Navy does a lot. I mean, they're the second biggest Air Force in the world, which is kind of crazy. Navy does a bunch of stuff globally. And as far as the Air Force, we just do anything that's air, obviously. But even like one thing I think people kind of overlook too is like the dude that always calls them like airstrikes. That dude's always Air Force. Like that's an Air Force guy. That's a special warfare troop. So he's either TAC P or like CCP. So TAC P, you're talking dudes that roll with like Army infantry, Marine infantry. I'm assuming probably Rangers too. And then CCP, those are the guys that rule with like Navy SEALs and stuff like that too. So the only difference is like the CCP, I think they're called CCP. I hope I'm getting that right. They go through dive training, which is super hard. And TAG P doesn't, but TAG P is still insanely hard to get into. A lot of physical training to get those jobs.
Is there, do all the branches, they all work together, right? It's not like they don't do their separate thing, or how does that work?
A little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Some things can really be handled by one branch. But yeah, we work together all the time. We even one branch with another NATO branch. So like our Navy and Israel's Navy, you know what I mean? Like we work together with everyone, especially each other too. So.
Okay, sweet. Now, this is where I want to dive into it. So, just a little bit on the beginning, like how does, because you were just deployed, right? And then you just came back?
Yeah, I was on a 90-day TDY.
Now, how does all that stuff work? Are you like on contract, or does it end? Do you just go? Do they call you?
Yeah, so basically because this was kind of like a planned deployment, you kind of get a little bit more of like a heads up. Like, hey, this trip is coming up. Who wants to go? Because we need to send X amount of people. And so I was like, oh, I'll go. You know, that'd be a sick one. So they had like a 45-day rotation and a 90-day rotation. So Anderson Air Force Base has something called like a tanker task force rotation. So every single guard unit, air guard unit that does tankers rotates out with each other every 3 months. So what that means is in the 185th, we go to Guam every 3 years because that's when it's our turn to take over for 90 days and support whatever the mission is over there. So I originally had signed up for the 45-day, coming home halfway, but one of our airmen was having a child, and he obviously didn't want to miss his child's birth. So we switched shifts with each other. So I got to go there the whole 90. So I actually got to be a part of 3 exercises. One was Cope North, it's like the second largest flying military exercise in the world. So it was like us, South Korea, Australia, and JASDEF, which is Japan. That was super awesome. 100 different aircraft there. Like it was very busy. And then we also had a Navy exercise. So it was just, I don't really know what the goal was. I'm assuming it was to show a force to China, because China's Navy really likes to mess around by Guam and get really close and like cut off our boats and stuff like that. So we had 4 F-18s in the air 24 hours a day for like 2.5 weeks. So it was pretty cool to witness. And then we had Agile Reaper right before I came home. And that was like the F-22s and stuff. So that was cool.
So you guys get to work with other countries too, right?
Oh yeah.
Do they got different tag, different planes?
Yeah, they totally do. In the nicest way possible, everyone really just copies us, or we just give them some of our stuff. So, for example, JASDEF Japan, which us and Japan have a really good relationship. Like a lot of people might think not World War II. Mm-hmm. We're super close. Like it is very fun to work with JASDEF.
Cool.
We have this fighter jet called an F-16. Pretty standard fighter, been around since the 80s, single jet engine. Japan has the exact same thing, but it's called an F2. And the only difference is the F2 is made by Mitsubishi, so they can produce their own parts. What else? Other countries that even necessarily aren't our allies also have F-16s, but the difference between our F-16s and theirs is even though they're produced by the same company, our upgrades and our munitions and our computer systems are far more superior. Like we constantly upgrade everything. You know what I mean? Like just because you buy a Toyota and I buy a Toyota doesn't mean I'm not gonna put a lift kit, straight exhaust, put a V8 in it. You know what I mean? That's what we do to pretty much everything.
Okay, sweet. Now, yesterday we were talking about, all this stuff for a little bit. And then, so I looked at those videos on Twitter and they have it on Reddit on the war. It was like the war in Ukraine. Nowadays a lot of the soldiers got those cameras. I don't know if they're using GoPros or something, POV.
I think they usually are.
Yeah. So, and then I saw more of those drone videos. So a lot of people that I talked to, they're veterans, so they're out. But you're one of the younger guys and you're in. What do you think, if there was like a war, let's say with the U.S. against whoever, nowadays with the tech, how would a war look like? Or what would a war look like? I'm guessing it's not going to look like how we had it back. What was the last one we've got, like in the Middle East?
Yeah, it would be the real last conflict I'd consider that had any sort of like organization, real push forward would probably be during Trump's first year as president, when it was really Operation Make ISIS Not Exist Anymore, which we did an awesome job of. That was the first real like organized thing we did. And then we kind of made ISIS totally disband and totally destroy the organization. I mean, they only have scattering survivors now. They're still not organized. Like they have no real ruling anywhere anymore. Sometimes they'll claim a terrorist attack, but who even knows if that's true? You know what I mean? So yeah, probably then, because we didn't really do much after that. We just kind of stuck in the Middle East and then pulled out all of a sudden. Now it's the Taliban's again. So.
Would a war right now involve more of the drones, more of that?
Yeah, so
robotics.
For those of you that don't know, it's not necessarily a good thing. Let's get that straight first, because war is bad. Mm-hmm. But there is cameras everywhere in the world right now. I mean, police officers, as well as just common everyday folk, recording weird things that happen, whether it's natural disasters, home invasions, Ring doorbell cameras. Like cameras are everywhere. So with the conflicts going on in Russia and Ukraine, as well as Israel and Iran, you can literally watch the whole war like a documentary on Twitter, because all those soldiers have their phones out recording this stuff. They have GoPros on, so you can watch the tactics that are being used, the equipment they have, how they're mobilizing, what their battle strategies are. One of my airmen, Jackson Lutt, he is super plugged in to that kind of stuff. Like he is an information hub, and it's no joke, all from Twitter. And some people stumble across this stuff and maybe realize, like, yeah, this is fake, 95% of that stuff is really what's going on there. And so yeah, we're seeing a lot of like improvised stuff. It's hard to say what the United States would look like on anything, because we have just so much of everything, and like us against China is a whole other topic. But Russia's really proven that they were pretty much recognized as like the third strongest military in the world. I don't even know if they're top 5 after how they've been performing against Ukraine. And vice versa. Ukraine wasn't a top 10 military ever, and now you could make that argument. Granted, they have a ton of our equipment. But like Jackson showed me a video of these Ukrainian soldiers that were posted up in like a building, and there were some Russians in like a trench so many yards away, right? And so what they were doing was they were talking to their recon team that was out in the woods somewhere. You could see it. He was talking to these guys on Discord voice chat, and he has a VR, POV drone that he's flying, and he flies it over there, and it's a drone hooked up with essentially an Amazon delivery package system with a mortar, and he drops a mortar on these soldiers from this drone. And it's a $5,000 setup, which from a military logistics perspective is like $1. That's $5,000, nothing when it comes to setting up something that advanced. You know what I mean? We're also seeing a bunch of trench warfare, seeing a bunch of mud affecting the reliability of some firearms and equipment. Things are getting super muddy over there, which terrain plays a huge factor in war in general. We're kind of seeing too how, once again, not good, but Ukraine has all of our equipment and they're fighting Russia. So we're getting a front line perspective on Twitter of how U.S. equipment performs against Russia's equipment.
Okay.
And our stuff's awesome. It destroys. Like the video of the super popular video of the Bradley destroying the Russia's brand new T-90 tank.
Yeah, now I saw that one.
The whole self-loading, fancy, unstoppable tank gets demolished by this troop transport truck with a gun. You know what I mean? So war has definitely changed a lot. It's kind of like this hits jokingly like this weird mixture of like the war of drones mixed with like World War I, because they're using prop planes and makeshift drones and trench warfare and shotguns, which is all World War I tactics, which are super inferior. So I don't know. It's like this weird mixture. It's hard to say. It just depends who and where, really. But
you don't think, how come, and again, like, I don't know anything about warfare, military, nothing like that. How come throughout, I guess, most of history, the U.S. has never been attacked besides the Pearl Harbor?
And 9/11.
Oh, yeah, 9/11. Yeah.
Well, one, we're super young. We haven't really been around that long. So, you know, other countries that have been attacked, they've been around for at least 1,000 years. You know what I mean? So we've only been around for 300, you know what I mean? So, but part of the logistics reason is Canada and us are pretty good friends. Mm-hmm. Mexico and us aren't necessarily the best of friends, but to go through the Mexican cartel in any way, shape, or form is like going against the military in itself. They're super organized and have a ton of equipment, and the Mexican cartel is super protective. Not good, but very protective of Mexico in general. So for anyone to invade Mexico is almost a death sentence. So you can't go that way. You can't go north. And then on top of that, if you are like Russia and you just beeline it to invade the coast of like California, right? Well, now you got to worry about Jazz Def and Australia at your back. So you're going to be completely surrounded, screwed. Vice versa, if you try to attack the East Coast and go straight for DC or whatever, our best ally is probably Israel and the UK. Mm-hmm. And so now you got them at your back. So it's just, you're going to get surrounded if you attack the United States.
Okay, so we got a good position.
Very good position. Yeah. And we like our natural defenses and stuff like that. Like if you invade California, now you got to go over the mountains after that. And you're going to get totally destroyed before you ever get there anyways.
Oh, because you're mentioning that about the terrain. Because then you got the mountains, and then if they want to go to the Midwest. I was looking up some info, and well, tell me if I'm wrong or not. I think it shows some of the Midwest states besides South Dakota have, I don't know if it said nukes or it said some defense. You know what I'm talking about?
It is rumored that a lot of our nuclear weapons are hidden kind of in the internal parts of the United States.
Okay.
For example, during the Cold War, Vermillion was actually listed to get nuked by Russia during the Cold. Like they said, they had a map of like, hey, if we're going to launch our nukes, they need to go here. Well, they thought Vermillion had nuclear silos, but those silos were actually in like I think Rapid City or Ellsworth Air Force Base or whatever out there. So they're close. That's not. Yeah, Vermillion was listed to be attacked by a nuclear bomb. Also, I don't know how I forgot this, but during World War II, when Japan had rocked our world out of nowhere, the Japanese emperor at the time was asked about, like, so are we going to invade the U.S. or like what's our plan? It's his quote actually stating that the United States citizens, like if you invade the U.S., there's a gun barrel behind every blade of grass because we own so many firearms. So that's actually a major perspective of why we haven't got invaded. Just something I don't think comes up enough when it comes to like a Second Amendment rights and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is it literally stopped Japan from invading us? Was they were worried about how many guns the common people had. And that's a direct quote from their emperor.
Some guy. No, yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah, you're right. Because me and Myra and some other people talked about it. Like, for example, I don't know if you know about it. Like in Mexico, guns are illegal. Like, they say you could get one, like a permit. It's like
super hard.
Yeah, it's like hardest thing you could get. And what Myra was telling me is that because she remembered, I think her grandpa told her that what they did back then was they had one of those buyback programs. So yeah, you sell your gun to the government and you get money. I think they said that he got like some TV. But the bad thing that happened was, hey, well, the bad guys kept their guns or they have something. Now you can't protect yourself.
Yeah. And I get why people are scared of firearms, and I get, like, America does have a gun problem. It's undeniable that something we're doing is not correct, right? There's two sides to this pendulum, right? One is I used to sell firearms myself. When I was 19, I worked at a gun store, so I know how the whole background process system works. I know that it's inescapable. There is no loopholes, right? There are some people that I know that will pass the background check that I personally don't think should have a firearm. Because having a firearm is a total privilege.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's your right, but it should be a privilege. You got to have respect for it, and you got to know how to use it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's something that's earned, in my opinion. But on the other side of it is, if you Google what's the largest mass shooting in U.S. history, it's going to tell you it's the Las Vegas shooting, which I think like around 100 or less or whatever, many people got injured and some killed. Horrible event, right? But the real largest mass shooting in U.S. history was, I think it's the Bear Creek Massacre in like the late 1870s, 60s, where the official U.S. government took all firearms away from the Native Americans and killed 1,500 Native Americans. Literally slaughtered a whole tribe by disarming. So there's two sides to this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want people who shouldn't have guns to have them, but you got to be as well equipped as your enemy or the threat that's out there. So if the government says, hey, you guys can't have ARs or whatever, I'm totally fine with that, but cough yours up first, then I'll cough mine up. You know what I mean? Because that's not fair.
Speaking of the gun stuff, before I came, a little bit before I came to South Dakota, or especially when I was younger, I remember it being like, I always thought the thing was like, hey, you know what? They should ban guns. Guns are bad. I never shot a gun, but I always thought it was they shouldn't. Until, so I lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I remember it was like, I think it was 7 years ago, in White Settlement at a church. Some lunatic came in. He had some shotgun, and they got the security camera so you could watch it. And I remember watching it on the news, and he shot one guy, and he shot the other guy, and then all of a sudden, some random guy in the crowd just like I don't know what he had, some pistol, and he just aimed and got him. And then like everyone else, like there was a bunch of people that were armed, and they went. And then after that, I was like, whoa, if that guy didn't have, or if anyone didn't have a weapon, that guy would have just shot everyone.
Yeah, and the argument to that is, well, if that guy didn't have a gun in the first place, it never would happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you, because the reality is criminals don't follow the law.
Yep.
Guns are so common and have been around for so long that you could completely ban every gun ever and still buy one.
Mm-hmm.
You really can. And with new striker-fired polymer frame handguns, which is the latest model, basically, ever since Glock came out in the 80s, everyone's copied them. And Glock, instead of it being this complete steel frame, it's something called polymer. So it's like a mix between metal and plastic. Long story short, you can 3D print that material. So people, they're only good for a couple shots, but people have 3D printed firearms, right? So that's how much this has advanced, right? So, yeah, that's personally why I'm probably going to vote for RFK Jr. this year. So, because his stance on gun control is super nice, because he pretty much said what I just said, right? Is taking them all away is not the solution, but we got to do something because nothing's being done. I think we almost have like a security issue. You know what I mean? Like in Vermillion, I went to high school in Vermillion. We had a police officer whose one job is to make sure there's peace at the high school and to watch the front door. And we live in nowhere. You know what I mean? So why does somewhere like Fort Worth or New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, where they have the most gun laws but have the most gun violence, like why don't they have a cop at their front door of their school? Especially when they can afford it.
Yeah.
They have a way bigger budget than we do. You know what I mean? Also, I think one of the prime examples of gun control ultimately failing, by gun control, I mean no one can have firearms no matter what, is Israel has a mandatory service law, the IDF. So at some point in your life, you have to do military service in Israel if you are Israeli citizen. Man, woman, doesn't matter. You got to do, I don't know their standard, but I think men is like 2 years minimum, and girls are like 1 year, something like that. Well, when they were attacked by Houthis, right? Israel is not that big, especially compared to the United States, or even to a state in the United States. Very small. So Israel, everyone there is either in the military, going to be in the military, or is a veteran, right? So when they were attacked in Hamas, none of them had firearms. They were all unarmed people, which then makes the crime even greater. But in their houses, they all have like a safe bunker, like a bulletproof room, if you will, a vault. Well, they got burned out of their houses, and it got super hot in those vaults, and they would either flee or die, essentially, right? One father protected his family by body blocking all the shots from an AK-47 at the door to save his family in the vault, which is pretty dark, right? It took the IDF, which is arguably the greatest or the second greatest defensive military force in the world, 6 to 8 hours to respond to the Houthis invading their tiny little country, which is horrible, right? So at the end of the day, you can't trust the government to protect you, even if they have the resources, right? People are people make mistakes, and the IDF messed up super bad that day. So it's ultimately going to be on you to protect yourself and your family, right? And you should never like shooting somebody. That's not even debatable, right? No one on this earth deserves to get hurt. However, there are people whose sole goal when they wake up every morning is to cause terror.
Yeah, they're just evil. They're just bad.
They're out there. They might not even be many, but they make a big impact on the world, right? And that is why you have a gun. It's just how it is. You don't have to have like 18 or a John Wick Voss, you know what I mean? I'd like one, but you don't need one. It is your responsibility, especially if you have a family, to protect your family, right? So yes, we have a problem, and we need to make some laws to lower the amount of gun violence we have, but taking them away is not going to solve anything. On top of that, the people who make gun laws know nothing about guns. as a former gun salesman, I can 100% guarantee you that I, by myself, know more about how firearms function, what makes a firearm more dangerous, right? How they're produced, everything. I know more than Congress combined. They don't know anything. You know what I mean? It's just super bad, right? We gotta elect people that have a good. We gotta elect people who are like ex special forces to make gun laws. People that are gunsmiths. You need to make gunsmiths make gun laws.
What do you think about speaking of the government, those like congressmen and all that? What do you think about like? I think the majority are, I think, what are they, like lawyers or, well, they all know the laws.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, sometimes, hey, you know what? It's fine that they know the laws, but sometimes we just need like you're saying, like an average person or like a gunsmith, someone a little different.
Yeah. I mean, don't even need to dive too much into detail. I'm not going to ask a butcher, like, what kind of flowers I should give my wife. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like I shouldn't give anyone advice on how to perform a heart surgery. You know what I mean? But just because I all of a sudden have this political background I get to, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, real world experience is going to beat reading a book. It's just how it is. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. No, that should be all right. I think with the, man, like nowadays, so now I'm starting to, me and Maya, we're starting to pay more attention to how like, even like city government, but like how the whole thing works. And then, cause it's a good thing with Maya, cause she has that, she's born and raised in Mexico those 20 years. So and coming here, she could compare like for example, like the government stuff, like some of those differences. And she says it's a little more better. Actually, she says she likes it here a lot, especially, for example, those gun rights. But also because Mexico, a lot of it is, she said, a lot of it's like the government, they want to, and it's, their intention is good. They want to help out everyone, but they're very, what's the word, like controlling, so many regulations.
Controlling.
Yeah, they're also corrupt. You see everything's under the table.
Yes.
Opening, like, for example, just even like if the common man over there just wants to open up a little business because, they want to make some money, man, it's like a pain. Like no, you got to have this or this. Oh no, because this is going to help. And I got this friend that might be losing money for this. I'm like, dang.
There's a show. I haven't watched it personally, but one of my friends, Tayden, loves the show Parks and Rec, right? And there's a super libertarian character named Ron Swanson. Super funny. I think one of his quotes is like, whatever happened to, hey, would you like an apple? I'm selling some apples. Yes. And you buy them. Like, that's how easy it should be to open a business in this country. Yeah. Yeah. The government's bad for the most part. There's nothing much more to say to that. It's a lot of senile, old, evil people that just want money and power. Not all of them. There are some very good politicians out there, and we live in a great country. But I think, like I said before, there's so many cameras now that I think people are starting to finally see, like, wow, we really are being lied to all the time about everything, right? Yeah.
Speaking of that, we'll ignore some of that politics stuff, but with the cameras, I want to know more about your take since you are in the military. The stuff back then with Edward Snowden.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that? Because people thought, no, there's no way no one's watching me or this and that. Even me, I have the camera like turned off on this one.
Yeah.
But do you think what he did was good, bad? Because I hear on both sides now. There's some people say no, it was treason. Like he betrayed his country. But also, like me, I'm like, well, I mean, I think it was fine revealing the stuff, but I don't know. What do you think?
So, for those who aren't familiar, Edward Snowden, what was that? 2012.
Yeah, I think
Something
in
like
the
that.
Obama stuff.
Yeah. So he unveiled this program, publicly leaked that there was a program that the government was watching everyone through cell phone cameras, computer cameras, and was essentially reading text messages and recording phone calls. And the reason he found out was because he actually made the program to catch terrorists in the Middle East, and the government took it, copied it, and applied it to everyone in this country. So, my opinion, that's a digital MK Ultra situation. If you don't know what MK Ultra is, the CIA in the 70s, I believe, were testing psychedelic drugs for interrogation on U.S. citizens without their consent or knowledge. And the CIA is very bad. They should not be here. But my stance is spying on people for crimes they haven't committed is bad. And it'd be one thing if it was like this true secretive flag system. They were just abusing it. I mean, they'd get people on everything that would have never been found out if it were for the program. And it's one thing to stop like another Boston Marathon thing from happening, right? But they were truly just like looking at girls through their computer camera. Like they were super abusing it. So I think what Edward Snowden did, even though it might not be a popular take, was good. Mm-hmm. Because anytime the government abuses its power, that's not like the ceiling. It's going to go farther and farther. It's human nature to want more all the time, right? So if you let them overstep once, they're going to overstep twice. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe people don't bring that up more. I almost forgot about that myself. Yeah, that was a horrible situation.
Now, since you're in the military, because I want to, you could correct me. Do you work, I guess, since like a lot of people, like for example, like there's some people say, well, I don't like you shouldn't trust too much on the government and this and that, but you're also in the military. Do you have to follow whatever they say? Like
Yeah, this sounds pretty weird to say, but most people in the military are super anti-government. And in my opinion, the military and the government are almost two separate entities.
Really?
They're not, but if it's something like one of the most exaggerated fears ever is like the U.S. military turning against its civilians per government control. I couldn't see it happening, man. I get maybe to a small scale, but you can even look at things like the Texas National Guard fending off like Homeland Security or whatever it was at the border while I was gone. Yeah, ultimately, like when we pulled out of Afghanistan under like last year under Biden's administration, right? And we left it in shambles when we pulled out because we didn't let them set up their own government at all. Just left all of our equipment there, like stuff that me and you paid for, tax is there, like in the Taliban's hands, which is horrible, right? Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, what we did though is we left a bunch of U.S. citizens over there, and people were in danger because there was no U.S. protection anymore, right? So there were U.S. citizens that needed saved, like legitimately sick. Like U.S. was gone, sick. Now it's witch hunting time. We're gonna go find U.S. citizens. We're gonna kill them, right? So that happened right when we left, but Biden pulled us all out, so we couldn't go back. So what do? Well, someone hired a bunch of veterans and contracted them, so like ex-Special Forces guys, to go and save U.S. citizens, and it was all privately funded.
Is that what's it called, Blackwater? No, it's
yeah, I know what you're referencing. I'm not 100% sure.
So they do that. I thought, because I've heard about some of that stuff, and I always thought, I've seen a bunch of movies where they're like, oh, let's hire some, or,
private military contracting is a very real thing.
Oh, okay.
That's how you get a lot of good stuff and dirty stuff done.
Oh, okay.
It's PMCs. And PMCs absolutely save the day. And those people are going to get no recognition ever.
Okay.
Even though they saved probably 2,000 plus lives. And we just immediately left Afghanistan.
Let's go back to what you do, and because I do want to know, do you like your job? Do you enjoy it, or what? Tell me everything you do.
Sure. So my job sounds super simple. I am like a glorified 7-Eleven employee. So I refuel aircraft. I work at the 185th in Sioux City, Iowa. So we have 8 KC-135 aerial tankers. So they refuel any plane you can think of in the air. So they fly over it like this, and a pipe comes down, and the fighter jet comes up, and that's how they get gas. And so my job is not only fueling the tankers or any jet in the Air Force or whatever. Like in Guam, I filled up anything you could think of. I probably put gas on, like every fighter, every cargo plane, all of them. But part of our job too is also like we receive trucks from like a civilian petroleum companies, right? So we handle like the receipts of that. We kind of paperwork everything. We store fuel, and we also run it through like a cleaning system. So our fuel is super high grade. Like you might not know this, but like at your local gas station and stuff, there's probably like minute amounts of like sediment and water and stuff, especially like MoGas, because MoGas is like a dirtier fuel, like just your standard gasoline. But JP8 Jet A is the fuel we use, and it's like really, really, really high quality diesel with additional additives as well. So our fuel looks like drinking water, essentially. I mean, it's that clear, same color. You really couldn't tell unless you smelled it, to be honest. But yeah, and then the job I'm actually hired for is, so yes, I go and refuel planes when needed, but I'm also in charge of training the new guys that come in and getting them caught up, because we kind of do everything kind of like a electrician school or like a HVAC school would do. Like we make people get like their journeyman and stuff like that. Cool. Right? So like it's all skill level and stuff like that. So that's essentially my job.
With the planes, since you know a lot about it, speaking of the fuel, in the future, or what do you think about the electric stuff? Do you think planes will be electric, or it's not at that point? Or you think the fuel's all right? Or like the future, what's the future looking like for planes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, some people are like, oh, electric anything shouldn't exist, or vice versa. It should only be electric. I think electric has some advantages, right? It's a completely different process of minerals. So instead of fossil fuels, they consume something called precious minerals, I believe, like lithium, potassium, things like that, right? So right now in the United States, the people that want electric everything is like extreme left, but the extreme left also protests digging up precious minerals, which is what the car battery is made of, so it's kind of this old debacle. But I think there's some real military application that could be used from it. Yeah. Electric is usually quieter. So if you could somehow get a jet to go nearly as fast while running on electricity, that'd be kind of cool. And I'm sure there wouldn't be as much of a heat signature. So you probably can heat sink missile anything, which would also be pretty cool. Maybe get some solar panels on there if that's applicable. I'm not sure. I'm not an aircraft designer, but yeah, I could totally see some electric appliances being super convenient in the future, as far as like maybe basic technology, like support equipment for the aircraft and stuff like that. Because we also have to put fuel in like generators and stuff like that. That gets pretty annoying, like overseas and stuff. So that'd be cool to have like a generator that you don't have to refuel to even power up aircraft and things of that nature.
What's the most advanced airplane that you know?
Most advanced airplane that I know that's acknowledged would probably have to be the F-35 Lightning II. So it's our newest 5th gen fighter. So 5th gen fighter, the only other one is the F-22. So the F-35 Lightning, it's not as maneuverable. The F-22 is in a class of its own maneuverability. Its one job is to just fight other planes in the air. Like that, the F-22 doesn't do anything else. The F-35 is a air-to-ground stealth anti-technology, essentially, aircraft. It's super awesome. So it can like fly way higher than your average fighter jet. It's extremely fast for a single jet engine. Most single jet engines are slower than double jet engines, but this one jet is really big. It's It's also got the ability, the pilot can actually see under the plane, and if he looks behind, he can see what's outside the plane. So he has 360 vision everywhere. You can see outside the plane, underneath of him, above him. So we call it like situational awareness is a common military term. So the pilot's situational awareness, like where his team is at, where the adversaries are at, what they're trying to do, he can see everything. The F-35's computer system is also super cracked. As far as like its weapons targeting and things of that nature. They're also working on like this hive mind project. I don't know if it's done or not, but basically the goal is an F-35 can pick a bunch of targets for itself and a bunch of targets for other aircraft. So if you had like an F-35 with 3 F-16s behind it, with this awesome computer it has, with one push of a button, it could shoot off its own missiles and all of the munitions of the other aircraft behind it as well. So it's like it takes over their weapon systems, and it can pick 20 plus targets or whatever, all at the same time, which is absolutely amazing. And it can scramble radar and things of that nature. And it's believed to be stealthier than an F-22 Raptor, which is insane.
Are you guys tackling anything with AI, or is it overrated? For you think?
So, very good question, actually. Very, very brand new. Is they developed this fighter dogfighting program, an AI. They taught an AI how to dogfight, right? And it's grown. It is very good at dogfighting. They actually brought one of the best pilots in the Air Force to play a video game to dogfight their AI, and he lost like every single time. So now we're starting to do this thing where we're putting this exact AI in the pilot seat of an F-16. So we've had drone-controlled F-16s for a while, and it's kind of been, they're not anything advanced, right? They can't carry out the mission. Their job is you fly the thing, it goes straight, and you see how far you can fly it over Russia before it gets shot down. That's it. And so I think we're going to make 6 of them and see how they perform. So it's a full-blown F-16, and instead of having a seat, it's a computer, and it's that AI, and it's going to dogfight. And it should be the surefire victory almost. So pretty insane. And that's brand new, publicly announced.
So you think like in the future will be like unmanned planes, or you think you still have to have that guy in there?
You still have to have that guy, because one thing that AI doesn't do as well is probably like relay information. Like, hey, do you want me to do this? Instead of just acting on its own because it was the most logical thing to do at the time.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's like, probably shouldn't have done that, you know? So, no, I think ultimately things are still going to be manned. Like the new criteria is the 6th gen fighter. So the B-21 Spirit bomber is the first ever 6th generation aircraft that's coming out this year, like hitting the flight line in service this year. So you can actually fly that with a pilot or without a pilot. And that without a pilot program isn't complete yet, but it will be. But ultimately there are missions in certain situations where you have to have someone in there, because AI doesn't have morals, and morals is what keeps war from breaking out. You know what I mean? Like human rationale will never, I don't think, disappear by any means. But I think AI is very useful for training. And maybe if it's a mission where it's like, hey, we know we got to destroy all this stuff in this area or these people or whatever. Yeah, send a robot to go do it.
Sweet. But it's not going to be like in those movies where, you know, let's say like the military invents some AI and then the AI turns against us. You know, I think it's going to be like that, right?
No, I don't think so. I do think, however, like electronic warfare is a big thing. EMPs, like even those, like, remember I was telling you about those new Iranian suicide drones?
Yeah.
That they're producing. They're slow, but they're a very nice drone. Like it's not some rinky-dink garage project. They're manufactured, militant, right? Ukraine will hack those and just land them on the ground. You know what I mean? So technology isn't to the level yet where it's like can't be EMP'd or anything like that, right? Because personally, if you send a bunch of electronically controlled AI piloted aircraft at me, I would probably try to develop some sort of like electromagnetic pulse machine, right? Because if you EMP, which is electromagnetic pulse, it kills an electronic permanently. So there is no more AI. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So there's some counters to it. So I don't think it could overtake us. You know what I mean? And like, computers go bad. They need to be maintained. Like hardware overheats, wires break.
Yeah.
I don't know if it necessarily be like movies, but that would be scary if an F-16 also just turned right back at you. So, yeah, we'll see, I guess. But I don't know. It's hard to predict. But if you want to see what war is like currently, it's not great, but I do encourage looking at the videos on Twitter to see what real modern 2024 warfare looks like between two militaries that are like real militaries.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now we'll go. I think this will be the last topic. So this is the part where we start getting a little more of that conspiracy back. But I like talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
But mostly about UFOs. We've heard about that. We've seen videos. People say, "Oh, the government's hiding some of this stuff." "Oh no, I've seen it." "Oh no, it's fake." But now I don't know what's going on. But you see it now, and then like even like governments like releasing. Yeah, I think they changed it. It's not called UFOs no more.
Yeah, it's called a UAP.
Yeah.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon, I think it's called.
So are they aliens or nah? What do you think?
That's a super good question, dude. So as a Christian, I don't think so. Could they be demonic or angelic? Maybe. Probably not likely. So this UAP thing is real. Like we've talked about it at work. Like that's how much they pushed it down everyone's chain of command is like, yeah, with the UAP thing, like we got to watch out for this. So the UAP thing, obviously every country that has a legitimate military has classified planes they fly, and people don't know what they are, and that's probably the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now some of the stuff looks super weird. Unpopular opinion: the government, since I've grown up, has gotten so much worse and has just blatantly lied to our face, right? That now that they've said UFOs are real, I don't even know if they are. You know what I mean? Like, because they'll be like, Mr. President, why are gas prices so high? And he'll be like, they're not. Like, what do you mean they're not? Go outside and look at the sign. It's $1 up from yesterday. They just lie all day, every day. Everyone just likes to lie and not, beat around the bush. It's almost a relief if they beat around the bush because at least they talk about it and don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's probably just Skunk Works messing around. You know what I'm saying? Skunk Works is Lockheed Martin's, I think, division that makes all the stealth stuff, and they're really good at their job. It's probably Skunk Works messing around or China doing something stupid. China's just a bunch of computer nerds that can't fight at the end of the day. I'm sure that's all it is. I don't think it's aliens. I think it'd just be weird. I think it's a little bit too impractical to call them aliens. You know what I mean? Like the fact they haven't touched down or made contact or like done anything other than fly really fast by someone's super bad camera all the time.
It's always a bad camera.
Like, and yes, the Navy evidence that they released was very interesting, right? But if the government ever tells you anything, take it with a grain of salt. Because all they do is lie to you and keep things secret all the time.
Now with planes, and I don't know how much you know about helicopters, but also drones. So you always need what's that word? I think Taylor told me like
propulsion.
Yeah. Now with some, I don't know if there's
something traceable.
Yeah. But with some of the footage, I don't know if it's true or fake. They'll say like it just stops and it moves like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that the military got that moves like that?
The closest thing I can think of is like you're saying, like a helicopter can hover because of its rotors, right? And an F-35 and in a Harrier, they can twist the jet engine down and do something called a vertical takeoff. So it's a jet, but it'll turn the jet back and take off.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't go left to right insanely fast, stuff like that. The closest thing to what you're describing is called thrust vectoring. It's what the F-22 and the Su-57 have. The two best in a dogfight, if you can turn around on a dime, you win. That's unfair. It's so crazy how much of an advantage that is. So the F-22, if you like look up videos of them flying, or the Su-57 from Russia, which they only have like 10 of, so they're no threat, you can appreciate them as an aircraft because, in my opinion, they're pretty cool. They can't afford them. They can't afford to put one in war. If they lost it, their whole economy would collapse because one costs so much. But an F-22 Raptor can fly straight up, completely stall out and almost appear to hover, and then fall down and spin like a leaf, like this, and then just take off. And how it does that is in the back, there's like these clamp looking things that turn, close, move up and down, right? And what that allows them to do is in correlation with the wingtips and like the fins and stuff in the back, can just swivel and turn at unnatural angles. But nothing like fly at 900 miles an hour, stop instantly, and then fly up 900 miles an hour. Nothing like that.
It would have to be like, it has to be new tech, right?
Yeah, it would have to be something, because there's not even like it doesn't even appear from most footage that they're loud. So there's no, anything that's a jet is so loud that it's awesome and deafening, and you would know if it's a jet. So obviously there's zero propulsion, which physics-wise doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of why part of me believes that the whole thing's not real anyways. Which sounds weird, but it's not beyond the government to just lie to your face.
What's the motivation though? Like saying, like, let's say it's not real and they're saying, oh, it is real. Like, what do they gain out of it? Just control?
Control, fake transparency. Like, hey, you can trust me because I kept the secret. Now I'm not. Even though it does exist. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a fake friendship, all that stuff. I have my own theories too. We can talk more about that off camera and whatnot, but you got me. I don't know why they would announce and stuff. And what's weird is they like continue to hide some stuff. And so I really do think like some people, there's like a group of people that believes like there was some famous crash in Nevada.
The Roswell stuff?
Yeah. And that's where people believe like we got the microchip from, was like reverse engineering UFO that crashed, right? And could be true. I don't know. But like to me, that would be more believable as like Nazi technology than like otherworldly. You know what I mean? Like, just doesn't add up.
Because if someone would have said something like, if right now they had like alien bodies, so they have to, someone has to like, or do you think everyone would be so secretive?
With 7 billion people on this planet, the odds of you like going to let your dog out in the morning and like a dead alien be in your yard and be like, oh my gosh, what in the world? Like happening one time is like almost 100%. Like if there was aliens, right? Yeah, I don't buy it. Doesn't make any sense. We've never been contacted. And I think the worst way to represent yourself is flying at Mach 7 by commercial flights and F-18. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's weird. I do think it's weird that it's talked about now. Because when you like back in 2014, if you said like, hey, I saw a UFO, everyone knew to label you like a loser. And that made no sense, right? Including the government. But now all of a sudden they're like so open about it. Like, yeah, they're real. We see them every single day. You know what I mean? Like I've talked to a pretty good amount of pilots. I haven't met one that's like, I see UFOs yearly, but they claim there's all these pilots that do. I don't know. The whole thing seems weird.
Okay, do you want aliens to be real though? Or nah? Or does it matter?
I don't know. If they're real, we'll probably kill them. Because they're going to want our stuff, and we can't speak their language, and it's going to be bad. They're probably a threat more than they are friends. But then again, I can't blame them for not wanting to come down here, because they saw us go from riding horses to drop a nuclear bomb in like 60 years. So that's pretty wild. So I don't know. My life wouldn't change at all if aliens were not real. So
All right, sweet. I think this is where we could end it. But yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, thanks for being on the show, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you.